If you're an accredited investor, I have big news. In the last 12 months, I bought 5 major American brands. I bought Pure One Imports, Linens and Things, Dress Barn, Franklin Mint, Models.
Well, if you're asking whether she is studied in the law and has a head full of law, there is no question about it. It's been many years since I faced a law school professor, and I will tell you that she certainly knows a lot about the law. There is no doubt about it. But the questions that I asked of her really went beyond that basic question. I really wanted to know what was not just in her head when it came to the law, but I wanted to know what she has in her heart when it comes to the law. One of the senators who spoke a few minutes ago chided us because we kept bringing color photographs to the floor and to the committee hearings of people whose lives depended on the Affordable Care Act. He characterized it as theater and likened these images, these photographs, to cutouts at sporting events. Well, let me tell you, the ones that I presented from Illinois represent real-life stories of real-life families who depend on the Affordable Care Act. Why do we raise the Affordable Care Act in the midst of this hearing for filling this Supreme Court vacancy? For one simple reason. That's what the president did. It was the president who told us far in advance, I'm going to fill Supreme Court vacancies to eliminate the Affordable Care Act. So is this a leap of faith on our part to take the president at his word? Would the president even consider lying to the American people? If you take him at his word, then Amy Coney Barrett is part of an agenda, a political agenda, to eliminate the Affordable Care Act. And in the past, the president said Roe versus Wade while you're at it, and also to move forward when it comes to protecting him if there's an election contest after the November 3rd election. He said as much. As I mentioned earlier, he doesn't have an unuttered thought. He tweets it 25 times a day, whatever crosses his fertile mind. And that is his agenda when it comes to filling the Supreme Court vacancy. When we ask Judge Barrett, she denies any promises have been made. But there's some evidence, obviously, along the way that convinced the president and the people in the White House that she would fulfill his mission if she came to the Supreme Court. And when you look at the issues involved, it's not just her compassion when it comes to the Affordable Care Act and 23 million Americans covered by insurance under that law, 600,000 of them in Illinois. It's not just a question of her courage to stand up to this president if there's an election year contest that comes before the Supreme Court. It's really whether she's committed to the preserving the pillars of modern law, the rights of women. Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death created this vacancy. There's hardly a person in our history, modern history, who spent more of her life dedicated to the rights of women. Is Amy Coney Barrett going to follow in that tradition? I think it's a legitimate question. When it came to racism, are we going to deal with racism in an honest way? And I'll get to that in a moment when I speak to her originalism motivation. Marriage equality, privacy, voting, all these issues are on the table. And I do have to disagree with my colleague from Texas who preceded me. I just don't believe the law is robotic, nor do I believe that there is a simple formula to use that can guarantee an outcome in a case. As I said to Judge Barrett in our private conversation before the hearing, there wouldn't be 5 to 4 cases if we could look at the facts in the law and come to the same conclusion. People reach different conclusions. And that takes me to the third point here. We asked Amy Coney Barrett during the course of this hearing so many questions about basic law that went right to the heart of this Constitution. These weren't trick questions. They weren't pending litigation. Questions like, can this president or any president unilaterally decide to change the date of the presidential election? That's pretty basic. I think it's covered by 3 different sections in this Constitution. She refused to answer because of the possibility that there would be litigation before the court on that subject. Well, what about intimidation against voters trying to cast their votes in an election? Couldn't answer that one either. Same reason. Well, what about, and this was asked by Senator Kennedy, Republican of Louisiana, what about climate change? Well, it turns out Judge Barrett told us she really hadn't developed any thoughts on climate change. Really? 48 years old, lawyer, law school professor, mother of 7, no thoughts on climate change? It really, when it was all over, you had to ask yourself, what was the purpose of that hearing if those were the kinds of answers we faced? Certainly we wouldn't ask her about pending litigation. But the one thing that she was very proud of and stated over and over again is that she was an originalist when it came to her thinking on the law and the Constitution. As I said, originalism is not some foreign language you pick up on Babbel. It's a mindset. It's a mission statement. It's the belief that the original text in our Constitution reveals all the answers. I doubt that very much. That's kind of MAGA jurisprudence. Take us back to the good old days of jurisprudence. Because you see, what really launched originalism occurred in the 1950s in a case called Brown versus Board of Education. The southern states were not ready for integration, and many of the northern states weren't either, for that matter. And the critics of that Supreme Court decision said it was judicial activism to integrate the public schools of America. They were critical of a court that went too far under Earl Warren, called for his impeachment and more, and started saying you should have stuck with the original Constitution. Well, the original Constitution didn't give African Americans the right to vote. In fact, considered them under the law to be 3/5 of an American citizen. And so those so-called originalists of that day, those textualists of that day, criticized that activist court, and it didn't end with Brown versus Board of Education. The same criticism was launched when it came to Griswold versus Connecticut, a case that really argued that we have a right of privacy in our married lives that can't be overcome by the state. Loving versus Virginia, that interracial marriage was permissible. And then, of course, the case of Roe versus Wade, the ultimate case when it came to privacy. and liberty. So those who come before us and tell us that what's really at stake here is restraint on the court, self-discipline on the court, we've heard all those words, and making sure that justices don't pursue policy. Think about all of those things in terms of what happened in Brown versus Board of Education, when they overruled Plessy versus Ferguson of decades before and said, moving forward, we believe this Constitution guarantees to every child the right to an education, regardless of their race. Dr. Chemerinsky is with the University of California School of Law in Berkeley, wrote a recent article in the New York Times on this originalism theory. And he noted the fact that it was Anton Scalia who gave it great popularity, and a lot of people followed Scalia because he was cerebral, jocular, fun to be with. He spoke to a luncheon of Democratic senators that I was able to attend. But when it came down to it, his views of the law were pretty strict and pretty rigid, pursuing this idea that, for example, under this view, the First Amendment means the same thing as when it was adopted in 1791. 14th Amendment means the same thing as it was ratified in 1868. It turns out that the circumstances in all of those cases have changed so dramatically in America. Judge Amy Coney Barrett argued she's an originalist. She would be joining that other originalist on the court, Clarence Thomas, with her legal thinking. And that gives me pause and concern when it comes to what she's bringing to the court. A head full of law for sure, but an approach to it that I think is oppose. It is a way to argue against change and evolution in America that is inevitable and, in fact, necessary. Professor Chemerinsky says, in fact, under the original public meaning of the Constitution, it would be unconstitutional to elect a woman as president or vice president until the Constitution's amendment, because Article 2 refers to them with the pronoun he. When you get stuck with the language in the original Constitution in the extreme, you find yourself reaching conclusions that are not in the best interest or consistent with American mores or values today. So, Mr. President, this is more than just another nomination to fill a vacancy on the Supreme Court. It comes at a moment in time when we should be focusing on the deadly pandemic facing America. We should have spent 5 straight days coming up with a COVID relief bill for the millions of Americans desperate for help today and desperate for peace of mind when it comes to this public health tragedy which we're facing. It is a nomination which comes before us when the rules of the Senate and the rules of the Senate Judiciary Committee are being twisted and turned to create a political opportunity for Senator McConnell and his side of the aisle. And sadly, it is a moment in time when a nominee for the Supreme Court wants to bring to us a political way of thinking, a legal way of thinking, I should say, a legal way of thinking, which I believe is inconsistent with progress in this country when it comes to human rights and civil rights. Under originalist theory, we may never have had Brown versus Board of Education and the other cases I mentioned. What a loss for this great nation. That's not what we need on the court. We need people on the court who are realists, who will look at the law and the Constitution in real terms and not ideological terms. And the notion that this justice is being hurried before us in the hopes that she will eliminate the Affordable Care Act in the midst of a pandemic certainly is worth noting. It's one of the reasons, one of many of the reasons, that I'll be voting no on Amy Coney Barrett with her nomination to the Supreme Court. And I yield the floor.
Carolina.
Thank you. As chairman of the Judiciary Committee, it's my honor to speak on the floor about this nomination, which I think is historic in many fashions, all positive from my point of view. We have before the committee the nomination of Judge Barrett, who currently sits on the 7th Judicial Circuit. She is one of the most impressive people I've ever met. 2 days of hearings, answering every question thrown to her with grace and judicial demeanor, I think, should be the gold standard for every other nominee. But I want to thank my staff. Lee Holmes, the director. Lee's done such a great job of Now, the Judiciary Committee has done a lot of things, some contentious, some not, but I want to thank Lee for shepherding this nomination and the fine work he's done. Mike Fragozio, Mike, I got your first name right anyway, just outstanding. You've done a terrific job. The permanent nominations unit for the Judiciary Committee includes Laura Miller, Raja Churchill, Tim Rodriguez, Watson Horner, Akil Ragassekar, don't want to butcher your name. All have worked incredibly hard for 135 Article III judges, not just this one. In addition, Lucas Croslow joined my staff to lead the team of special counsels assisting with the Barrett nomination. That included Sid D-A-D-H-I-C-H, Jay Favell, Abby Holstein, Eric Palmer, Robert Smith. They went through the entire record presented by Judge Barrett to make sure we would be prepared for the confirmation process. Law clerks Matt Simpson, Emily Hall, Megan Karen, and Peter Singal. I'd like to thank the Judiciary Committee's press secretary, Taylor Reed, did a great job, Taylor, along with George Hartzman, as well as by our Deputy Staff Director, Joe Keeley. Bottom line, all of them worked really hard. You made history. You should be proud. You can tell your grandkids about all this. Well done. To my Democratic colleagues, I know you didn't like what we did, but I do appreciate the way you conducted yourself in the hearing. It wasn't a circus. I think you challenged the judge appropriately during her time. We had 4 days of hearings. We heard from a variety of people about Judge Barrett. In terms of the process, it was well within what we've done in the past. Every Judiciary Committee markup regarding a Supreme Court justice, we've done the same thing. First day is opening statements, 2 days of questions, and the final day input from outside groups, and that's what we're able to do here. So she went through the process like every other nominee since I've been here. But let me just say this to my Democratic colleagues. It's not about the process. You find ways to make sure that most of you can't vote for anybody we nominate. And it really does break my heart. Robert, 78-22. That was sort of the norm. I think Alito got 96 and Ginsburg got 97. Maybe I got the numbers right. I can't remember who got what, but one got 96, one got 97. Used not to be this way, Senator Sullivan. Used to be different. We looked at the qualifications, said, okay, you're good to go. You're a person of integrity. You're smart. You're well-rounded. You're knowledgeable in the law. You may have a different philosophy than I have, but we understand elections matter. And everybody accepted the election outcome. Those days are over. Absolutely, completely over, destroyed. There's nobody any Republican president can ever nominate I think is not going to face a hard time. That's too bad, but that's the way it is. Alito, 58-42. Judge Alito, well known on our side of the aisle, the kind of person you'd be looking at to promote to the Supreme Court. When President Bush nominated him, well within the mainstream. Robert Alito, well known in the conservative world of being very bright Court of Appeals judges that any Republican president would be looking at to put on the court if they ever had an opportunity. No difference between Alito and Roberts, but Alito went through hell, but he made it and he got 58 votes. So then along comes President Obama. He gets 2 picks, Sotomayor, 68 votes to 31. I think she deserved more, but 68 is pretty darn good. I was glad to vote for her. I saw that she was qualified. Then we had Elena Kagan, 63 votes. You can see the trend here. Both of Obama nominees, 68-63. Now, I thought Elena Kagan was highly qualified. Different judicial philosophy. She was a dean of law school at Harvard, but worked for the Solicitor General's office. Both of them have been with the liberal side of the court most every case, but not all. I'm not surprised with the way they've decided cases. I think they're tremendously well qualified women should be sitting on the court. That's exactly who you would expect a Democrat president to pick, Sotomayor and Kagan. So now we come back. Trump wins. Nobody thought he would win, including me. I voted for somebody in 2016. I wouldn't know if he walked through the door. Evan McMullen. I think I met him once. I had my challenge for President Trump during the 2016 primary. He beat me like a drum. I accepted my defeat. I've been trying to help him ever since, and I think he's done a really good job of sending to the Senate highly qualified judges. He's gotten input from a lot of different people. The Federalist Society, you name it, a lot of different people. Gorsuch and Kavanaugh have one thing in common. They were in my top 3 recommendations. Any Republican president looking to nominate somebody to the Supreme Court would be looking at Gorsuch and Kavanaugh. These are not exotic picks. They're in the mold of Sotomayor and Kagan in terms of qualifications. So what happened? Gorsuch was the first attempt at a partisan filibuster. We had 3 votes to get 60, and we couldn't, so we changed the rules for the Supreme Court like they changed the rules in 2013 for the District Court and Court of Appeals. If we had not, Gorsuch wouldn't be on the court, and to say he's not qualified is a joke, is an insult to him, and says more about you than it does Judge Gorsuch. If you can't see he's qualified, you're blinded by your hatred of Trump. So he made it, but we had to change the rules. Hated to do it, but had to do it, because in any other time, Gorsuch would have gotten the same type votes as Roberts, because he's just highly qualified. Then comes along Kavanaugh. Nothing about process there. There's no process argument. Right at the very end, the last day of the hearing, when we thought it was all over, you give us a letter that you'd had for weeks, an allegation against the judge. It'd been nice to share it with him so he could tell his side of the story, but you chose not to do that. You had it pre-cooked with the press outlets, and everything blew up. So all of us on the committee had to decide what to do. I sat down with Senator Flake and Senator Collins, and we felt like the allegations had to be heard. They're made. And I know a lot of people on our side thought it was unfair, dirty pool, but we had the opportunity to have the hearing. And the rest is history. It was high drama. All I can say that something happened to the person who accused Judge Kavanaugh, but I don't believe Judge Kavanaugh had anything to do with it. This was a party in high school. Dr. Ford couldn't remember where it was, who was there. The people that were said to be there said they don't remember anything like it happened. Judge Kavanaugh hasn't lived a life like being described. He was accused by 4 or 5 people. 3 of them actually made it up. I hope some of them go to jail for lying to the committee and the country. And they were trying to make him a rapist and a drugging women in high school. And what was his annual all about? It was the most sickening episode in my time in the Senate. They were hell-bent on destroying this guy's life based on a bunch of manufactured lies and evidence that wouldn't get you out of the batter's box in any court of law in the land. And here we are, 50 to 48. And what I saw there was a turning point for me. We cannot continue to do this. You're going to drive good people away. And I'm hoping that the Barrett hearings, which were far more civil, far more traditional, will be a turning point. Because I don't know who the next president will be, but there'll be an opening, I'm sure, in the court. I'm hoping that the next hearing is more like Barrett and less like Kavanaugh, no matter who wins. Now, Barrett. I understand the concern about the process. This is the latest we've ever confirmed somebody. You've heard all the arguments about when the presidents of one party and the senates of a different party. You've had one confirmation in 100-something years that most of the time when the presidents of the same party as the Senate, they go through. I understand. The bottom line is we gave her the same type hearing that Alito, Sotomayor, Kagan, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh had. My Democratic colleagues showed up at the hearing. They participated. They pushed her hard, but I don't think they went across the line. They decided not to show up for markup. I hate that, but that's the way it is. I would like to spend a few minutes talking about the person who's going on the court in about an hour. If you're looking for somebody that a Republican would be picking regardless of the process, it would be Judge Barrett. She would be on anybody's list. And I listened to Senator Durbin, who is a good friend, and we'll work on whatever comes our way after the election. I find that he's somebody you can work on hard things like immigration with, but his description of Judge Barrett simply doesn't pass scrutiny. I'm trying to make a character of this person that doesn't exist. There's nothing exotic about Judge Barrett. She's very mainstream in our world. All I can say is that after 2 days of hearings, the American people, by 51%, which is pretty hard to figure in this country, you get 51% agreement on anything, felt like she should be going on the court. So here's what Dean O'Hara said, Dean of Notre Dame Law School, who hired Amy Barrett to be a professor at Notre Dame. I have only communicated with this august committee on 2 occasions. The first was 10 years ago when I wrote a strong letter in support of now Justice Elena Kagan, whose term as Dean of Harvard Law School overlapped with my own. The second is today, introducing and endorsing Amy Coney Barrett in equally strong terms. Some might find these recommendations to be in juxtaposition, but I find them entirely consistent. And to anybody wondering about Judge Barrett, I would highly recommend that you look at the ABA's recommendations and the process they used to find her well qualified. Not one person uttered a negative word about her character, according to the ABA. Someone said to the ABA, the myth is real. She's about her is fake. She is good, she's decent, she's selfless, she's sincere. She's an exemplary of a living and integrated life. The standing committee would have been hard-pressed to come up with any conclusion other than that Judge Barrett has demonstrated professional competence that is exceptional. Then they had a committee to look at her writings, all of her writings. They accepted input from 944 people that she's interacted in her professional life. Not one negative comment. So forget about what politicians say about Judge Barrett. Forget about what people who don't recognize President Trump as being a legitimate president say about Judge Barrett. Forget about what I say if you want to. Look at what people who work with her said that are in the law business, that know her individually, have worked with her as a judge, as a professor, and they conclude without any doubt she is one of the most gifted people to ever be nominated to the Supreme Court. There's nothing exotic about Judge Barrett. She's going on to the court in about an hour. That's exactly where she needs to be. She's the type person who's lived a life worthy of being nominated. She's the type person that's worthy of receiving a large vote in the Senate, but she won't get it. She's not going to get one Democratic vote. And you're right off to the process if you want to. That's fine. But what about the others? All I can say is that we're going to have an election here in about a week. And whatever happens, I'm going to acknowledge the winner when it's all said and done. It may go to the Supreme Court. I don't know. But there'll be a day that we know who won. And I'm going to accept those results, and I'm going to do with the next president what I've tried to do with this one and every other one. Try to find a way forward on things that are hard, keep the country moving. But this is about Judge Barrett. This is about her time, her moment. She's done everything you would expect of her. She's exceeded every challenge put in her way. She's impressed everybody she's worked with. She has impressed the country. She's going onto the court because that's where she deserves to be. As to us in the Senate, maybe Down the road, we can get back to the way we used to be. I don't know, but I do know this. There's nothing exotic about Judge Barrett. She's as mainstream as it gets from our side of the aisle. And when it comes to people outside of politics looking at her, it was universal. Highly qualified, highly competent, ready to serve this country, the socialist justice of the Supreme Court. And my last thought, it's hard to be a conservative person of color. That is a very difficult road to hoe in a modern American politics. My good friend Tim Scott is a great voice for conservatism. And Tim, a lot of things said about Tim, it's said about nobody else on our side of the aisle. And he's tough, he can handle it. Same for conservative women. Judge Barrett did not abandon her faith. She embraces it, but she said, I embrace my faith, but as a judge, it will not be the rule of Amy. It will be the rule of law. It will be the facts. It will be the law, an outcome dictated by the law, not by anything. There's a seat at the table for you. This is historic. This nomination is different. This is a breakthrough for conservative young women. And I was honored to be the chairman of the committee that reported out Judge Barrett to the floor of the Senate. And I'm going to be honored to cast my vote to put her on the Supreme Court exactly where she deserves to be. I yield.
Mr. President,
Minority Leader.
today, Monday, October 26, 2020, will go down as one of the darkest days in the 231-year history. Let the record show that tonight, the Republican Senate majority decided to thwart the will of the people and confirm a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court in the middle of a presidential election after more than 60 million Americans have voted. Let the record show that tonight, the Republican majority will break 231 years of precedent and become the first majority to confirm a Supreme Court justice this close to Election Day. And let the record show that tonight, the Republican majority will make a mockery
the general subject matter of each of those 6 segments.
If you're an accredited investor, I have big news. In the last 12 months, I bought 5 major American brands. I bought Pure One Imports, Linens and Things, Dress Barn, Franklin Mint, Models. I'm sure you've heard of one or all of those brands, but more importantly than how this
died. The American people should have a voice in the selection of their next Supreme Court justice. That's all he said. He didn't say that the American people should have a voice, but only when there's divided government. No, the last bit is ex post facto.
Barrett to the floor of the Senate, and I'm going to be honored to cast my vote to put her on the Supreme Court exactly
Over to Europe. France says it regards cartoons as a symbol of liberty and vows to keep allowing people to make them in the wake of another terrorist tragedy. NTV UK's Neil Woodrow will bring us more news from Europe.
Thanks. Welcome to NTD UK with UK and European news. In the face of widespread criticism for his crackdown on Islamist separatism, French President Emmanuel Macron said on Twitter, "We will not give in ever."
Sent in French, English and Arabic on Twitter, Macron says, quote, "We respect all differences in a spirit of peace. We do not accept hate speech and defend reasonable debate." Macron paid tribute to the beheaded French teacher. Speaking at the televised memorial service, Macron told viewers that France, quote, "will not give up our cartoons."
Samuel Paty est devenu vendredi.
Samuel Paty on Friday became the face of the Republic, of our desire to break terrorism, to diminish Islamists, to live as a community of free citizens in our country.
However, the Pakistani Prime Minister accused Macron of attacking Islam by encouraging the display of cartoons depicting the Prophet Muhammad. And Turkey's president said Macron needed mental help over his attitude towards Muslims. France then recalled its ambassador to Turkey. Germany's foreign minister has voiced support for Macron.
We stand in solidarity at France's side as far as the personal attacks by President Erdogan against President Macron go, which I find are a new low point. They are totally unacceptable.
France's Foreign Affairs Ministry said there have been calls to boycott French products, notably food products, in several Middle Eastern countries, including Saudi Arabia.
Factory workers and students in Belarus are striking after their request for President Alexander Lukashenko to quit is ignored.
Hey everyone, my name's Cass and this week I'm going to be talking about Canadian immigration. Whether you're looking to temporary work,
I take full responsibility. It's not my fault that he came here. It's China's fault. And you know what? It's not Joe's fault that he came here either. It's China's fault. They kept it from going into the rest of China for the most part, but they didn't keep it from coming out to the world, including Europe and ourselves.
What I would say is I'm going to shut down the virus, not the country. It's his ineptitude that caused the country to have to shut down in large part. Why businesses have gone under, why schools are closed, why so many people have lost their living, and why they're concerned. Those other concerns are real. That's why he should have been, instead of in a sand trap in his golf course, he should have been negotiating with Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats and Republicans about what to do about the acts they were passing for billions of dollars to make sure people had the capacity. I have not taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life. We learned that this president paid 50 times the tax in China, has a secret bank account with China, does business in China, and in fact is talking about me taking money. I have not taken a single penny from any country whatsoever, ever. Number one. Number two, this is a president, I have released all of my tax returns. 22 years. Go look at them. 22 years of my tax return. You have not released a single solitary year of your tax return. What are you hiding? Why are you unwilling?
President Trump, your response.
First of all, I called my accountants under audit. I'm going to release them as soon as we can. I want to do it, and it'll show how successful, how great this company is. But much more importantly than that, people were saying $750. I asked them a week ago. I said, what did I pay? They said, sir, you prepaid tens of millions of dollars. I prepaid my tax. Tens over the last number of years. Tens of millions of dollars I prepaid. Nobody has done more for the black community than Donald Trump. And if you look, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln, possible exception, but the exception of Abraham Lincoln, nobody has done what I've done. I am the least racist person. I can't even see the audience because it's so dark, but I don't care who's in the audience. I'm the least racist person in this room.
Okay, Vice President Biden, let me ask you very quickly, and then I have a follow-up question for you.
Abraham Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history. He pours fuel on every single racist fire. Every single one. Started off his campaign coming down the escalator saying he's going to get rid of those Mexican rapists. He's banned Muslims because they're Muslims. He has moved around and made everything worse across the board. He says to the
Su faturanızı biz ödüyoruz. Şimdi akıllı sürahi Brita alanların su faturasına 50 TL destek Brita'dan. Akıllı sürahi Brita, mikroflow teknolojisiyle musluk suyundaki klor, kireç ve ağır metaller gibi istenmeyen maddeleri filtreler. Akıllı sürahi Brita'yı kullananların %99'u başkalarına da öneriyor. Siz de hemen alın, su faturanıza 50 TL destek fırsatını kaçırmayın. Musluk suyunu filtreleyip lezzetle için. Detaylı bilgi için brita.com.tr. Brita, huyunuzu suyunuzu değiştirin.
Be honest, do you really want to watch a video that looks like this? There's a good reason why presenters use images and visualizations while they talk, because it's what makes people pay attention. With a doodly animation, your audience will pay much more attention than just you speaking to a camera. It looks much more professional, it's incredibly easy, and you just need a one-time, low-cost license.
Hi, I'm Brad Callen, and in this video, I'm going to show you how anyone can quickly and easily create doodle videos, just like the one you're watching right now, using Doodly, our drag-and-drop doodle software that allows anyone, regardless of tech skills, to create highly engaging, professional doodle videos in a matter of minutes. Because doodle videos are fun and engaging, they can get you more clicks, likes, shares, and most importantly, sales than any other type of video. Which is why Doodly is now the video tool of choice for over 150,000 businesses all over the world, in virtually every industry and profession that you can imagine. Doodle videos are perfect for marketing, teaching, fundraising, personal use, and even inspiring others. After all, one of the keys to a successful video is to capture your audience's attention and keep it for an extended period of time. And since you're still watching this video, you already know how great doodle videos are at doing just that. Not only are doodle videos incredibly captivating, but research shows that they massively boost learning and memory retention. As a result, viewers really absorb your message, making your videos that much more impactful. And even better, doodle videos can make complex or boring subjects fun and easy to understand. So let me quickly show you how simple and easy Doodly makes it to create an interesting professional video. Alright, here I am inside the Doodly software, which is available for Mac and PC. You'll notice that you can choose the style of your video, selecting from whiteboard, blackboard, greenboard, glassboard, and for more advanced users, you can even use a green screen background, giving you lots of control over the video style. In this example, let's create a nice looking whiteboard doodle video. You'll notice that Doodly makes it super easy to create your own doodle videos with done-for-you scenes, hundreds of characters, a huge selection of props and images, royalty-free music, and even text. And for the ultimate in customization, you can even upload your own images, fonts, props, and music. Now to create a doodle video, it's really simple. First, I'll add a headline to get people's attention, then center it before adding a character. I like this one. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and add a prop too. I'll resize everything and voila, we have Steve reading a book on his chair. For the next slide, I'm going to do something a little different. Instead of adding a character or prop, I'm going to use one of Doodly's super convenient done-for-you scenes. So I'm going to simply drag and drop the scene I want right into my video. As you can see, Doodly is so easy to use that anyone can make doodle videos, even if they have zero tech or design skills. If you can click or drag your mouse, you can create a professional doodle video in a matter of minutes. Not only is creating a doodle video that simple, but we also have a bunch of really cool settings available too. Doodly allows you to customize your video with real hands, cartoon hands, or none at all, seeing transitions with even camera panning, and our smart erase mode to provide the realistic feel that you're looking for. And with just a couple of mouse clicks, you can also easily switch between different doodle video types at any moment. I'll change the doodle video I just created from whiteboard to blackboard in less than 5 seconds. Plus, you can even record a voiceover directly inside Doodly or add background music by simply choosing from our huge royalty-free music library. And of course, you have the option of uploading your own audio and image files as well. You can also select how long it takes the hand to draw something, so scenes, characters, and props are timed perfectly to your voiceover, should you choose to use one. Oh, and one more thing. When you upload your own image, using our enhanced Doodle Draw technology, you can make cool draw paths like this to teach Doodly exactly how you want to draw your imported images. And when you're done, you can preview your video before exporting it to a variety of formats, sizes, and qualities right to your computer, and you're ready to go. As you can see, Doodle videos do an incredible job of educating, entertaining, and selling, making them one of the best investments you can make in your business. And that's especially true right now. The going rate for professional Doodle video creation is anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 to have someone make a video similar to the one that I just showed you. But with Doodly, anyone can create a Doodle video regardless of tech skills and experience, meaning you can make dozens of Doodle videos without paying ridiculously high fees to professional design firms. If you were to visit the Doodly.com homepage right now, you'd see the regular price for Doodly is an ongoing monthly payment, which adds up to $468 per year. But since you've landed on this limited time special promotion page, you can get your copy of Doodly right now for a one-time $67 payment. No monthly fees forever. And you'll even have access to all the free feature updates we offer our Doodly users, which is typically once every week. This special promotional price won't last forever, so to lock in this one-time $67 payment with zero monthly fees forever, go ahead and click or tap on the button next to this video to claim your copy of Doodly today. And we look forward to welcoming you to the Doodly family.
Senate majority is breaking faith with you, doing the exact opposite of what it promised 4 years ago, because they wish to cement a majority on the Supreme Court that threatens your fundamental rights. And I want to be very clear with my Republican colleagues. You may win this vote, and Amy Coney Barrett may become the next Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. But you will never, never get your credibility back. And the next time the American people give Democrats a majority in this chamber, you will have forfeited the right to tell us how to run that majority. You may win this vote, but in the process, you will speed the precipitous decline of faith in our institution, our politics, the Senate, and the Supreme Court. You will give an already divided and angry nation a fresh outrage and open a wound in this chamber that will take a very long time to heal. You walk a perilous road. I know that you think that this will eventually blow over, but you're wrong. The American people will never forget this blatant act of bad faith. They will never forget your complete disregard for their voice. They will never forget the lack of consistency, honor, decency, fairness, and principle. They will never forget the rights that are limited, constrained, or taken away by a far-right majority on the Supreme Court. And history will record that by brute political force, in contradiction to its stated principles, this Republican majority confirmed a lifetime appointment on the eve of an election. a justice who will alter the lives and freedoms of the American people while they stood in line to vote. Leader McConnell has lectured the Senate before on consequences of a majority's action. You'll regret this, he told Democrats once, and you may regret this a lot sooner than you think. Listen to those words. You'll regret this, and you may regret it a lot sooner than you think. I would change just one word. My colleagues may regret this for a lot longer than they think. Here, at this late hour, at the end of this sordid chapter in the history of the Senate, the history of the Supreme Court, my deepest and greatest sadness is for the American people. Generations yet unborn will suffer the consequences of this nomination. As the globe gets warmer, as workers continue to fall behind, as unlimited dark money floods our politics, as reactionary state legislatures curtail a woman's right to choose, gerrymander districts, and limit the rights of minorities to vote, my deepest, greatest, and most abiding sadness tonight is for the American people and what this nomination will mean for their lives, their freedoms, their fundamental rights. Monday, October 26th, 2020, it will go down as one of the darkest days in the 231-year history of the United States Senate. I yield the floor.
Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
I think my remarks may encroach somewhat on the time previously set for beginning the vote. I ask consent that I be allowed to finish.
Without objection.
Well, this evening, the Senate will render one of the most consequential judgments it can ever deliver. We will approve a lifetime appointment to our nation's highest court. Since the ink dried on the Constitution, only 114 men and women have been entrusted to uphold the separation of powers, protect people's rights, and dispense impartial justice on the Supreme Court. In a few minutes, Judge Amy Coney Barrett of Indiana will join their ranks. This body has spent weeks studying the nominee's record. We've examined 15 years of scholarly writings, about 100 opinions from the Seventh Circuit, and testimonials from legal experts running the gamut from close colleagues to total strangers. There have been one-on-one meetings for every senator who wanted one, and a week of intensive hearings. All of it has pointed to one conclusion. This is one of the most brilliant, admired, and well-qualified nominees in our lifetime. Intellectually, Judge Barrett is an absolute all-star. She graduated #1 in her class at Notre Dame Law School. She clerked on the second highest federal court and the Supreme Court. Then she returned to her alma mater and became an award-winning academic. Judge Barrett's mastery of the Constitution gives her a firm grasp on the judicial role. She's pledged to apply the law as written, not as she wishes it were. Her testimony, her writings, and her reputation confirm a total and complete commitment to impartiality. And the nominee's personal integrity and strength of character are literally beyond reproach. She earned the highest rating from the left-leaning American Bar Association. They marveled at, quote, breadth, diversity, and strength of the positive feedback they received from judges and lawyers of all political persuasions. If confirmed, this daughter of Louisiana and Indiana will become the only current justice with a law degree from any school not named Harvard or Yale. Any school not named Harvard or Yale. She would be the first mother of school-aged children to ever sit on the court. By every account, the Supreme Court is getting not just a talented lawyer, but a fantastic clerks. Describe an exemplar who is tailor-made for the collaborative atmosphere of the court. By any objective standard, colleagues, Judge Barrett deserves to be confirmed to the Supreme Court. The American people agree. In just a few minutes, she'll be on the Supreme Court. 2 weeks ago, a CNN journalist made this observation that I found particularly interesting. Here's what he said. Let's be honest. In another political age, Judge Amy Coney Barrett would be getting 70 votes or more in the U.S. Senate because of her qualifications in a different era. Now, we know that's not going to happen. These are not the days when Justice Scalia was confirmed 98-0 and Justice Ginsburg was confirmed 96-3. And by the way, I voted for both Ginsburg and Breyer. Seems like a long time ago now. We spent a lot of energy in recent weeks debating this matter. I think we can all acknowledge that both sides in the Senate have sort of parallel oral histories about the last 30 or so years. Each side feels the other side struck first and struck worst and has done more to electrify the atmosphere around here about confirmations. Now, predictably enough, I think our account is based on what actually happened, what actually occurred, factually accurate. I was there. I know what happened. I've laid it out earlier. And I'll talk about some of it again so the American people may understand how we got to where we are. It was the Senate Democrats, our strategy of filibustering qualified nominees from a Republican president. They were proud of it. found a new way to halt the process, stop those crazy right-wing judges that Bush 43 was going to send up. They pioneered it because they knew what the precedent was at that point. At that point, as we discussed before, it just wasn't done. Oh, you could do it. You could. But you didn't. And the best evidence that you shouldn't do it was the Clarence Thomas nomination, confirmed 52 to 48. And all of us know that any one of us in this body has a lot of power to object. So if any one of the 100 senators at that time, including people who were virulently opposed to Justice Thomas, like Joe Biden and Ted Kennedy, could have made us get 60 votes and Clarence Thomas would not have been on the Supreme Court. That's how strong the tradition was until the Democratic leader led the effort in the early 2000s to establish the new standard. Well, after establishing a new standard, they got kind of weary of it, and in 2013, the so-called nuclear option was implemented because Republicans were holding President Obama's nominees to the same standard that they themselves had created. So when the shoe got on the other foot, they didn't like it too much. It was too tight. Senate Democrats, both in 1992 and 2007, helpfully volunteered how they would have dealt with a nominee like we did in 2016. The then chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Joe Biden, helpfully volunteered in 1992 when Bush 41 was running for re-election that had a vacancy occurred, they wouldn't fill it.
If you're an accredited investor, I have big news. In the last 12 months, I bought 5 major American brands. I bought Pure One Imports, Linens and Things, Dressbarn.
Looms right around the corner. The country would be fundamentally changed forever when a Republican president makes a Supreme Court nominee. The very same tactics years.
I give up. She's too smart for me.
There's no such thing as intelligence. People are just more or less experts on a given topic.
She's a social development expert, and I have to impress her. We're meeting up for dinner tonight with her coworkers, and I'm gonna look stupid. I give up. She's too smart for me.
There's no such thing as intelligence. People are just more or less experts on a given topic.
She's a social development expert, and I have to impress her. We're meeting up for dinner tonight with her coworkers, and I'm gonna look stupid. I give up. She's too smart for me.
There's no such thing as intelligence. People are just more or less experts on a given topic.
She's a social development expert, and I have to impress her. We're meeting up for dinner tonight with her coworkers, and I'm gonna look stupid.
When I asked about this, she said 9 is the right number. That's the vacancy we're filling right now. I don't think.
Let's get with the campaign. Kayleigh McEnany, the national the campaign press secretary, is here with us to make the argument. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
So let's just tick through some of these things. I didn't understand the Puerto Rico play. I know.
Gerçek lüks, herkesin sahip olabileceklerini geride bıraktığınızda başlar. Le Chic Bodrum'da her detay size bu deneyimi yaşatmak için tasarlandı. Bodrum'un kalbi Asarlık Koyu'nda size özel 200 metrelik altın renginde doğal bir kumsal. Ayrıcalıklı dünyanıza davet edeceğiniz misafirlerinizi ev rahatlığında ağırlayabilmeniz için Palazzo Luxury Collection Otel. Bodrum'un merkezinde size özel tasarlanmış bu ayrıcalıklı hayatı kendi evinizde 4 mevsim yaşamak için geç kalmayın. Le Chic Bodrum. Bodrum'un kalbinde, bildiklerinizin ötesinde.
This is not about separation of powers. It's a hostage situation. A hostage situation. Elections come and go. Political power is never permanent, but the consequences could be cataclysmic if our colleagues across the aisle let partisan passions boil over and scorch the ground rules of our government. The framers built the Senate to be the nation's firewall. Over and over, this institution, our institution, has stood up to stop recklessness that could have damaged. Our country forever. So tonight, colleagues, we're called on to do that again. Tonight, we can place a woman of unparalleled ability and temperament on the Supreme Court. We can take another historic step toward a judiciary that fulfills its role with excellence, but does not grasp after power that our constitutional system intends somewhere else. And we can stand loud and clear that the United States Senate does not bow to intemperate threats. Voting to confirm this nominee should make every single senator proud. So I urge my colleagues to do just that.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Alexander. Present. Ms. Baldwin. Mr. Barrasso. Present.
weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Hawley, Hoven, Hyde-Smith, Inhofe, Johnson, Kennedy, Langford, Lee, Loeffler, McConnell, McSally, Moran, Murkowski, Paul, Perdue, Portman, Risch, Roberts, Romney, Rounds, Rubio, Sass, Scott of Florida, Scott of South Carolina, Shelby, Sullivan, Thune, Tillis, Toomey, Wicker, Young. Senators voting in the negative: Baldwin, Blumenthal, Booker, Brown, Cantwell, Cardin, Carper, Casey, Collins, Coons, Cortez Masto, Duckworth, Durbin, Feinstein, Gillibrand, Harris, Hassan, Heinrich, Hirono, Kane, King, Klobuchar, Leahy, Manchin, Markey, Merkley, Murphy, Murray, Peters, Rosen, Sanders, Schumer, Shaheen, Sinema, Smith, Van Hollen, Warner, Warren, White House, Wyden. Mr. Menendez, no. Mr. Schatz, no. Mr. Reed, no. Ms. Stabenow, no.